Dr. Sunil Pandey, Director, Environment and Waste Management, TERI. And at last, Dr. Samir Joshi, Treasurer, Governing Council, Indian Plastic Institute. Distinguished participants, dear friends of science and technology and innovation, welcome to you all. Just to recap, as we all know that on 15th of August 2019, our Honorable Prime Minister has spoken about ban on SUP in his Independence Day speech. 2 years later, on August 2019, task force formation at state and central level was done to oversee the pan-India implementation on the ban of SUP. And now, 2 days from now, on 14th of July, Central Pollution Control Board will oversee the compliance at district level for single-use plastic, starting from, I think, probably NCR region. I am confident at the end of this webinar, we all be having more ideas, fresh energy, and partnership to sustain our effort and to support this SUP and phasing out the SUP through science, technology, and innovation. Now, may I please request Ms. P. Vinisha, our board member, to throw more light on this issue. Floor is, ma'am, yours.
Thank you. Yes, as Rajesh ji mentioned, we are here today to actually deliberate on single-use plastic phasing out. All of us are we've read a lot because this call was given by the Prime Minister in 2018 at the UN summit with the UNEP. However, since then, we've been hearing a lot about SUP, so we must have read a lot, and we know the problems of SUP. However, we are now in the phase of implementation, and this iConnect event, the reason why or the purpose of this iConnect is actually to look at how to bring together or to connect the industries and the scientific community on implementing or coming out with certain implementation measures, technology, so that we will have the actual connect and the industries can actually take it forward. So this is why we call it as an iconic connect. And there are a series of such events which have been planned. So these are deliberations where we will have to come out with either a direct solution or maybe an approach to lead to solutions or to come out with certain entrepreneurship ideas. And this is the reason why this iConnect programs have been organized. Now, coming back to SUPs, we need to look at certain aspects, especially not just talking about the problems, but how to implement it. Now that we have this ban in place, what are the issues which we need to address? Now, this is the most important aspect, and that is what we would be deliberating today during this 2 hours of program. Now, we know that there are industries who are engaged in plastic, the SUPs. As we know, there are about 88,000 such industries who have been manufacturing SUPs. Now, they have already been, they have a lot of dead stock which needs to be managed. In the sense, now they cannot sell it. So these 88,000 industries for their dead stock, how do we think of disposing it? Of course, recycling is a better option. Now, who will pay for it? So these kind of implementation aspects needs to be discussed. If it has to be disposed, then what should be done? The second group of industries which are to be looked at is that now we need to find alternates for these SUPs. So first of all, it is not just enough that we look at some other convenience material, but these materials, whatever now we are thinking of as alternates, should be in such a way that they are environment friendly, and they should also be having a longer shelf life. They should not be disposable. They have to be reusable items, but at the same time it should also be convenient to use. So that a lot of thought needs to go into these kind of technologies which you're thinking of as alternates. Then the other aspect is that there are many industries who have been manufacturing SUPs, who have also been exporting. It's almost about, I think, 36 million USD worth of exports are there every year. And these industries also needs to be rehabilitated, in the sense that we have been talking about, I mean, our 5 trillion economy. So these kind of industries need to be rehabilitated, especially because we can't just think of, we are not going to use it, so let's export. That's not the kind of attitude, because India believes in Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which means even our neighbors or all the entire world should also look at alternates, and they should also phase out this SUPs. So we cannot be selling it to them. Now, so these kind of industries also have to be thought of in a different way. Of course, the government has allowed the SEZ area to still manufacture and export, but this also needs to be phased out. So we should deliberate on how we do these. Then we have the dead stocks from these industries, which, I mean, who will pay for these kind of industries, and also the people, the employees who are currently there in these industries. The rest of it is like we have today about I think 500 registrations in this event, which is very good. And most of them are from the industries. We have many from the colleges who are looking at ideas for startups and for innovations. So during our deliberations, we should also think of what kind of technologies are going to be there in the future, so that this can be taken up as a starting point by these students. And we also have the scientists here. So if there are some very pressing problems which are faced by the industry, then they can think of this event as an the industry should flag these points, and they should think of doing some research on this. So these are some of the points which I'm flagging, so that this is the direction in which our seminar today should actually go ahead. So just to channelize your thoughts, I brought in these points. With that, I think I will hope that we come out with very good solutions and for implementable solutions. So here we are not there to talk about problems, but to identify and come out with what kind of direction we have to go in. There is also certain other programs which have been um, thought of, like for the exports. The Niti Aayog is coming out with uh, a forum where we will be looking at how to help the industries who are engaged in exports. For technology, NEERI CSIR is coming out with another deliberation very soon. So these are the follow-up actions also which we have thought of. Thank you, and over to Rajesh ji.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Now, may I request Panchiri Dr. R. Vasudevan, a member SUP Committee, Government of India, to express his views.
Hello, am I audible to you?
Sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
The slides are clear for you?
Sir.
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om. It's great occasion for me to talk about plastic. And that's why I put plastic speaks, not myself speaking. Actually, plastic speaks. Let us try to thank the Iconic for initiating this deliberation, especially on phasing out single-use plastic. Let us also try to think what we are doing, what we have done, and what we are going to do in the process. More important is what is the future plan? Very, very important. And where we are and where we are going to be, let us try to think about it with an open heart. That is what I request people to have an open heart, so that we let us not have any constraint about certain thoughts. Let us have open thought and try to think about an alternative solution for various aspects here. And of course, I always start with my pranams to my guru, who is responsible for my elevation, for my all my work and my college. He was given all the encouragement, and for the government who has given me all the recognition like Padma Shri and so on. And of course, our work has been recognized in terms of patents, in terms of coding, and I also got a delete degree. More than that, the central government Ministry of Environment Forest has also recognized our research center as an environment information system. All these things are good recognition and respect. And I start here. India, we are in India where value and ethics are important. Here, value and ethics are very important. Remember that. Here, life is important. India is important. Life is more important. And lifestyle for environment is still more important. Let us have, this is the basis on which you have to discuss anything we discuss. We talk about world. We talk about planet. And planet, we have to have a beautiful interaction. The man is there as an ambassador. He must have proper interaction with the world. He must try to be a positive attitude toward the world. All life is yoga. The yoga is not only for man. The yoga is for man to interact with the world also. He must be close. The actual circular economy put forward long ago is right way of living with a better atmosphere, and nature provides what you need and man's need is satisfied. So this is the cycle in which we work. We will not have any problem at all. Actually, when we try to work in this direction, we were living happily for a long period. But suddenly we have the pandemic. What is the main observation of the pandemic? Lack of oxygen. Why is there lack of oxygen? The deforestation and desertification, all those things made reduction in the oxygen content, and that has given all the problem with respect to COVID. Therefore, looking India differently, looking plant kingdom as differently, looking our interaction of plant kingdom is very important. Therefore, whatever material we use, whatever material we try to adopt, everything should be in line with the nature. We should not give any problem to nature. Let us not look the problem of human being. Let us look the problem of world in which we have the main role and try to understand the whole process. And here, see, suddenly why there is so much of change? When we were living up to the World War, wonderfully well, people are very, there is no global warming, everything was beautiful. But suddenly what happened? There is a World War, and that after the World War, technology development. What has happened because of development? There is industrial growth like anything, and urban centers develop, and all those things result in the demand of wood, demand of ceramics, adhesive, manpower, etc. And all those things, what happened? Deforestation, loss of cultivable land, villages moved cities, and pollution, air, water, everything, living at master star. We are now worried about plastic only because of all these things only. And why all the problem? Because the nature is disturbed, natural materials are disturbed, and there is a problem of depletion of all this material because of exploitation by the human being of the nature only, nothing more than that. So that has resulted, what happened? Nature's law. Nature takes care of itself. Yada ida dharmasya klanidbhava bharata Nature takes care of itself. So what happened when nature is in problem, when automatically a new material came into existence? I consider therefore plastic as a gift of God, because it is a beautiful substitute to wood, to paper, fiber, metal, glass, everything. And we are able to use plastic instead of all those materials, and deforestation can be reduced, paper consumption can be reduced. If you try to equate this material to plastic, none of them can come. But still, they are able to have a wonderful material which can reduce the use of the natural resources. Therefore, very important, plastic I consider is a gift of God in that respect. But we have our own problem, and we have the government has implemented, has constituted a committee, and we have now report on single-use plastic also, and that has resulted in ban on plastic. What is that? Today we are at the crossroad. We are now talking about ban on single-use plastic, how to phase out the single-use plastic on one side. And what are the materials that are being used? They say carry bag, earbuds, cutlery, straws, film, etc., which are very, very basically important for very many aspects. And we are trying to use another alternative material like clay, textile, paper, steel, which are nowhere equivalent to the plastic material in the property. We can talk about alternative like that. Therefore, let us try to think in two different ways. One is better management of plastic waste. If you could do, there is no problem about the plastic. Plastic by itself is not a poison. It is a management that has not been done properly that creates all the problem. Therefore, better management is important. And if ban is one of the process in the management, that is something different. But what is more important is management of the plastic. Instead of searching for an alternative, you want to search for plastic, an alternative, you go to so many things. I just asked my wife, what is the alternative of plastic? You know what she said? Plastic is an alternative for the plastic, nothing else, because that is how it is occupied the living concept of people living. So why plastic is banned? Pollution of water, waste plastic dumped in rivers, sea, canals, etc. Who has done that? It is a garbage culture that is responsible, and we are not able to implement the rules and regulation. The government is not able to do it, and again, it is incompetence and non-cooperation of the public, or the fear has not been great like that. Therefore, less awareness, and more than anything is people say end of life. Non-biodegradable plastic. Let us understand the importance of non-biodegradable also differently. That is important. And the recycling industries are there, but not organized. This is the observation made by the committee. And the rack pickers are there, but not trained effectively. And the environment is very much affected. And there are some stray information like microplastic in the bread. But one thing, plastic is not a poison. Remember that. Therefore, the reason for banning, try to go through the reasoning, and is there a solution for this banning? This reason, pollution is there, is only man's culture, and implementation is again man's or the government interaction, and the end of life understanding the plastic is not done properly. Therefore, is the plastic banning, how you are look at it differently is very important. As I told you, plastic is the God's gift. It helps to overcome the exploitation of the nature, unlike depletion of wood, glass, etc. And it is most useful material. Utility, you can't list out the material for which glass. It is useful for domestic purpose. It is used for electronic purpose. It is used for electrical purpose. It is used for mechanical purpose. Wherever you turn, you see the plastic. So today you may talk about the film, or facing out the film SUP, but day after tomorrow you're going to talk about something else, because that is going to be plastic is going to be flood, and plastic is the material which is non-biodegradable. Remember that. These are too important. So economic value is also depends upon that. But one thing important, plastic has got a wonderful water resistance. It is hydrophobic. That is why it is being used in agriculture, public health, hygiene, and food shelf, and the life period, the shelf life of many materials increase because it is packed in a plastic material, whether the food or a cosmetic. Therefore, plastic, the property of the very important characters of plastic, try to understand, can we imbibe this property to any of the alternatives possible? Think about it, very important. And as you told rightly, industries, 15,000 crores have been has been used by the industries, and 3 lakh people are working in the job. If you are going to ban it, what is an alternative job you are going to find out? Incidentally, plastic is poor man's friend, and it is the most useful, environment friendly, and I put it, plastic is an environment friendly substitute. It's a substitute for natural material, and poor man's need, better packing, domestic appliance, industrial machinery, and sulfate will increase and save energy, life, fuel, water. What you list anything, all this is good properties of the properties which cannot be equated by any other alternative material. It has become our culture to use a plastic, therefore, and therefore, why the problem, as I told you, poor disposal and non-understanding the potential. I add one more important point here, non-understanding the potential of the plastic. If you could understand very well, for example, non-biodegradability. You say it is not biodegradable 500 years, so let it be. There are many materials in the world which are not biodegradable. For example, your stone, your gold, diamond, platinum, they don't undergo the biodecomposition, but they are used differently on the basis of their use. A stone is used for construction. It should not undergo biodecomposition. Similarly, plastic is not decomposable, but plastic is a beautiful binder. When I melt it, it gives a better binding property, wonderful adhesive, better than cementing material. Therefore, it is able to give me so many varieties of structural material. So, use of plastic here for road construction, for structural material, for hollow blocks, so many things you are able to do. And also, these plastics can be used as structural, so many things. Therefore, plastic by itself is not a problem. It is a wonderful use. Only the problem is your proper garbage culture is not there. Therefore, if you could manage that, 50% of the problem is solved. Therefore, thinking for alternate comes only next after that. See here, relook at it. Have a look at the plastic waste. When you use plastic as a road, we get a road for 15 years. Nothing, no pothole, nothing, and no cracking takes place. And the roads expenditure also reduced. Maintenance expenditure for 15 years is not there. Wonderful transportation is possible. That gives a, and for 1 kilometer road, I need 1 ton of plastic. That is, I need, if you could say SUP, in terms of SUP, I need 10 lakhs of carry bag for 1 kilometer. And we are having 46 lakhs kilometers of road in India. We need not less than 250 to 300 lakhs tons of SUP alone. I say IP, specifically I mean SUP, I need 2,300, 200 to 250 lakhs tons, whereas India has got 10 lakhs only. So no problem with that, but SUP always can be very well being used. So can we use it? Only thing, you are not able to collect it properly and try to supply it to material. This is the management technique is very important. Therefore, reuse for construction, plastic, wonderful. And see here, you are able to use the toilet, which uses half a ton of plastic for one toilet. India is constructing 2 crores of toilets. That means I need 1 crore ton of plastic. Where is it, please? Tell me where is the plastic available? All those things are going wonderful. This is working under environment-friendly conditions at 150 to 160. No toxic gas, nothing comes out. Beautiful, no dioxide. So beautiful. About disposal of the plastic is not a problem. Of course, we have also developed many other products using the waste plastic, like polymer material, like that is low temperature road making material, so like that, so on. And if you go to the alternative, let me be very frank about discussing about it. Alternative, you talk about jute, clay, paper, cloth, aluminum. So what is the availability of jute? What is the cost of this material? If you use jute, there is only not even 20% of the plastic packing used, 1/3 of the plastic material of the world used for packing only. Can we have jute for that? No. We can have a substitute for something that will reduce the use of plastic only, but it is not available to that extent. And cost wise, when you manufacture any jute material, the manufacturing technique itself, there is carbon dioxide involved, that is going to be another hindrance to the environment. And if you talk about clay, you can use instead of a plastic cup, you get a clay cup. The land becomes bad, but it loses all the top fertility. Therefore, clay cannot be used. Paper, enormous amount of deforestation. If you try to use paper, therefore again, there is a judicial method of using all these things as an alternate to the limited extent only possible. Cloth. Again, cloth. Today we use more of synthetic cloth. We very rarely use cotton cloth. Therefore, synthetic means again plastic comes in different form only. And glass and aluminum cost-wise more. Therefore, you need cement packing. Cement, when you use any of these material or jute or paper or material cloth, cement cannot be packed effectively. Loss of cement will be there, moisture absorption will be there, sugar, fertilizer, medicine, pesticide, vegetables, they're all packed in a material which cannot absorb moisture. Whereas your alternative has got your jute or clay or paper or cloth, they very easily absorb because they are hydrophilic, they are not hydrophobic. So they cannot be equivalent to substitute in plastic, but they can only reduce the use of plastic in the extent. At the same time, also think about it. Do you think that this cannot pollute? When you talk about biodegradable plastic, again there you are going to talk about the microplastic. These are also have their own decomposing character. Solid waste management is also going on various depths also. Therefore, think, is it necessary? Can we not manage it differently? My question is, don't say you are avoiding it. No, we are trying to reduce it. Let us try to reduce, because even head of UN has said plastic or miracle material. Plastic is not a problem. It is what we do it. That is the head of the UN message. And our Honorable Prime Minister said, mitigate through awareness and technology and by global partnership. Therefore, nobody said remove plastic and it is not God gift material, cannot be removed so easily. And see here, therefore, I feel recommendation in the sense industry can look for products which are environmental. They can manufacture plastic material which may biodecompose. They may try to manufacture plastic which are not toxic. And that is the relook in the industrial product is important. It should be environmental friendly. That is the approach to be taken that way. And we have multi-layer package now. For everything got multi-layer. Why should have multi-layer? We can have multi-package. For a chocolate, for example, you have a inner side aluminum, outer side polyester, polyethylene. Inside you have a 3 packet, one inside and then you can remove the packet and each one can be recycled effectively. So think about the modification, the technology, modification, the material, modification, the product also. And of course, adhering EPR also will help you in the respect. And I don't go and say anything against the alternate. If you are able to go to the alternate should be really an alternate. And if you are able to get a plastic, a hydrophilic and to hydrophobic material, any alternate should be hydrophobic. Plastic gain importance because of hydrophobic nature. Think about it. But industry can help awareness creation, can help segregation, can coordinate with the government and the public for collection and supply this material for road making, for construction. And thereby the problem of plastic is solved. The SVP is solved. The SVP problem is it is collected in the riverbed, it is collected on the sea, it is collected on waterlogging. If that is collected and if it is not deposited there, if it collected the source, no problem at all. Therefore, industry can do a lot of help for the environment. That is one part of the industry. Industry is only part of India also. Therefore, it is the responsibility of the industry to see that the problem is not magnified. And the government, of course, implement the rules and regulation. They can create fear. When COVID come, there was so much of fear among the public because fear of life. You have a mask, you have so many things for to provide, making distance, avoiding travel, everything. Similarly, from fear complex can create in the mind of the people. If you don't segregate properly, you will be fined. Therefore, fear and fine may help to implement the technology and thereby solve the problem. After all, our problem is only implementation, not implementation properly. Therefore, effective awareness about garbage culture and implementation is very important. And of course, reduction use can be encouraged in many respects. I have many lists of that. For example, if you have toothbrush, your toothbrush is you use throw away once in 3 months and it contains 80 grams and thereby plastic waste is accumulated. 80,000 lakhs plastic on the road. Now, what I said, the toothbrush, the stem part can be bamboo, the head part can be plastic, and the bristle part can be natural material. If you use that, definitely you would reduce the use of plastic, and the biodecomposability is also there, and the bamboo can be a beautiful fuel also. Therefore, we must judicial change our phasing out is nothing but throwing away plastic. It is finding out an alternate proper way. Thereby, you can find out there are so many things you can do like that. So, the reduction in the use by proper judicial planning to manufacture many materials. And of course, encouraging recycling. Recycling industry should be encouraged by the government. They must give some subsidiary. You must try to find out technology also can be given free for them so that they can use it. So government should come openly to encourage it. And similarly for manufacturing alternate material, this is government can only do that process. If I start manufacturing, if they give money for that, I can do it effectively. Therefore, it is the government not necessary to ban it, but government is more necessary for encouraging recycling or alternating. And above all, most important, I put it, rack pickers, the backbone of waste management, rack pickers, they are there to help us to collect the waste material. But only thing, they are unorganized. They are not supported by financially. They are not given a health condition, but they are not be taken care of. Therefore, organized rack pickers with proper education, health care, and salaries given, they can take and they can very well solve the problem of plastic to a very great extent. And therefore, the circular economy is nothing but single-use plastic, reduce and manufacture and distribution should do it properly, and the payback system they can get it responsibility and EPR, SCR, and it is again be used. Therefore, the plastic can be used. As I told you, I need 250 to 300 lakh tons of plastic if we need it. Actually, we have already laid 2 lakh kilometers in India, and border roads are being laid in plastic road. We are not able to supply plastic because collection is not there. Plastic is available. Therefore, remember that whatever plastic available can be effectively be used. Therefore, on one side, think about the reuse of plastic. I don't mind thinking about alternate about also if it is equal under that. Therefore, see, ultimately, nothing is waste. God never creates waste. Remember that. God never, nothing is waste. And I have given a symbol, the Krishna, with the flute and the peacock fur. The flute is a mere wood, but it has been made useful by the right person and the right hand and by using it. Similarly, any waste material, if it comes to the right person, he will use it for effectively. Therefore, think you are your friend and you are not your enemy. You have your own responsibility to this country, to the world, to the people, and you are the ambassador of the world. So practice better garbage culture. Plastic is not a problem. It is we, the people. God creates plastic, and the creation is not a waste. Don't try to escape from the problem. So by banning the plastic, solution is many. Think differently. Enlighten yourself to escape from the corruption. God gives a chance to change you. So let us think the right direction and thereby make it. So Brahma created plastic. Shiva had to show the decomposition. But Vishnu has showed me the technology. Come on, take it to the betterment of the people. By using technology, you are safeguarding the environment. You are safeguarding the natural resource also. One thing, man should understand is garbage culture is poor. If he is able to refine himself, he can definitely improve and solve the problem very well. And with this small opinion of myself, I end this talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir, uh, for taking us through the vast ecosystem of plastics and policy guidance. Let me now request Commander Navneet, Scientist F, Technology Development Board, to present the views and the how TDB best can help in this. Thank you. Over to Commander Navneet.
Thank you, sir. After such a wonderful presentation, I think I would find difficult to say anything about the topic because there are people who are much more knowledgeable on this aspect. But what I can try and do is probably help one of the issues which generally is faced by the new technology development which is being undertaken in India, and specifically the sectors when you talk about the waste management, which is, I believe, is the upcoming sector, and which is a sector which is the need of the hour, which has to be addressed. So for that, what I'll try and do is take you through the Technology Development Board, as an organization, what we do, what we have done, what we have achieved, and it'll not be a, what you can say, my focus will not be about showing off of what we have done. It'll be more about how we can help, because that is what our aim is. Our aim is to how do we help the technology development in India. For that, I'll also have to give a certain background that what we have achieved till now, and it is with that respect that I'll start my presentation. Just give me a minute. Yeah, is it visible? Uh, is my
You can
presentation
go ahead.
visible?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is. You can go
Okay.
ahead.
So I generally start my talk with what is common between all these signs. So this company Santa Biotech was the first company which was funded by Technology Development Board, and it happened to be the first company which developed a vaccine in India way back in 96-2000. Global Hospital, the first liver transplant hospital which was done in India. Uh, we have Tata. We have the first indigenous car, that is Tata Indica, was funded by us. The first electric car, Riva, which is now Mahindra Riva, was funded by us. The first RT-PCR kit during the COVID was developed by this company called My Labs, which was also funded by us. The first 1,000 drone show, which was undertaken on 29th of January this year, was funded by us. So this is the commonality between them is that TDB has been part of all of them. At certain point, I'll try and say what are the impact of each of this, what you can say, these companies. So I'll cover the presentation under the following heads with a brief background about TDB, what is our mandate, what is our funding process, TDB, what is the value addition has been there for over the years, and what are some of the notable projects. So TDB was constituted in 1996 under the TDB Act 1995 as a statutory body. The sole aim for this organization was to promote development and commercialization of indigenous technologies and adaptation of imported technologies for wider domestic application. So the point to be noted here is we are only about development and commercialization. Whatever the fruits of the R&D is there, or the indigenous R&D which has been developed by the various labs, which have been developed by the industry, when they have to be taken to the market, that is where the gap area comes in, and that is where TDB comes into play. The mandate of TDB as per the Act is provide financial assistance to industrial concern and other agencies attempting commercial application of indigenous technologies or adapting imported technology for wider domestic application, provide financial assistance to such R&D institutions engaged in developing indigenous technologies or adaptation of imported technologies, and perform any such functions which may be entrusted to it by the central government. So this is what the official part of it. But the main objectives for which we follow as in letter and spirit is promote new ideas from small enterprises even at the risk of failure, motivate industries and R&D institutions for product innovation, identify and act in areas requiring strategic intervention, encourage production of competitive consumer products. So this is a list of it, but like I said, requiring strategic areas requiring strategic interventions. So we have just closed a call on the waste management, which closed on 10th of July. Notwithstanding that, even if there are companies which have got innovative indigenous technologies, can still apply to us. They may not be in the call, but our what you can say portal is open 365 days. And even if there's an application which has not been filled rightly, we generally help people after that. After we receive an application, if something is missing, we try and get in touch and tell them that certain more information is required. I'll come to the most important part, that is the funding process. Salient features. Why should anybody come to TDB? Because we provide loans at 5% simple interest, which I think is, if you go on a longer term, is lower than inflation. Let's say if you have a project which is going to take 1 or 2 years to set up, let's say capital cost of it. So after 2 years of your, what you can say, the day you complete the project, let's say 2 years, 1 year is a moratorium period, and then 4.5 years, 6 monthly installments, you return the money. So that is for a duration around 6 to 7 years. the capital is available to you at 5% simple interest. Royalty is there at 0.5% of sales turnover of the product developed with board assistance. In this, what I say is a lot of people come and says, we'll have a lot of sales. So our only point is if you have a lot of sales and you don't want to pay the royalty, please close the loan faster. Nothing else. Then funds are released in tranches based on the milestones and recommendation of PMC. PMC is Project Monitoring Committee. And the best part is we do not charge any processing fee for any case, nor burden companies with boarding and lodging arrangements during the monitoring and evaluation of the projects. The only thing we expect the companies is we ask them, because they are local, we visit their site. So at site, they are better connected. So we just request them to book it, and we reimburse the money of the whatever the expenses have been undertaken for the committees which visit. Now, this is another most important part. Why I say what differentiates us from any other VC or what you can say angel investor or incubator is that the experts which we undertake to evaluate a technology are the domain experts. And considering that we are part of the government, we have access to those domain experts. Like we have experts coming from IITs, IISCs. So if I have a waste management technology, let's say into e-waste, so I'll be looking for what you can say the experts who are working in that particular sector or that particular technology, because the feedback coming from that will be very important to the company. We want the companies to be successful. So even if we say no to a project, we give the reasons in writing. Why are we saying no to that project? What are the flaws in either in the technology or in the financials or their projections? So there are two committees. One is the initial screening committee, which sees whether the your project falls into a mandate or it does not fall into a mandate. And once this committee approves it, it goes to the next committee, which is the project evaluation committee, which comes on site. And in case the project is beyond 10 crores of TDP contribution, then there's a third party due diligence. Now, the one question which is asked most of the time is, what is the ticket size? Now, fortunately for us, there's no specific ticket size. We have funded companies from 7.5 lakhs to up to 250 crores for one project of TDP contribution. Now, project under following heads, we can fund for land, site development, civil works, factory, administrative, plant and machinery, both imported and indigenous, fixed asset, technical know-how fee, cost of filing patent, contingency, then margin money for working capital. We do not fund working capital, but we can fund margin money for that. And we fund up to 50% of the unincurred project cost. Now, most of the times people come with a land, but whatever our experience has been over a period of last 20 years is whenever there's a buying of land involved in a project, 90% of the time that project gets delayed. So most of the times we say, you buy the land and then come to us. That makes more sense, because then the project will be on time. Now, over the years, we have funded more than 200 crores. And we have been able to leverage 8,000 crores from the industry. Like we fund up to 50%. So our 50% contribution include, sometimes we fund 20% in one of the companies, Tata Indica. They did not come to us for exactly money. Startups don't need money most of the times. They had come to us for a brand value. So in that project, it was approximately 310 crores. TDP funded only 30 crores. But the brand value and the evaluation which we did was more important to the company. So I had one of the companies which came to me, they said, first time when I came to TDB, it was quite painful because a lot of questions were asked, a lot of, due diligence was there. And the kind of questions which experts asked were quite difficult. But then we realized when the product came out, it was much better than what we envisaged. So next time when we came to TDB, it was not for money, it was for free consultancy. So now coming to the agreements and sector-wise we have done, we have a huge impact in the medical sector, health and medical, followed by engineering and IT. We are actually sector agnostic, so we can fund anything between agriculture to aerospace. And like I said, each project is evaluated by the domain expert. So you don't have to worry whether if I'm giving in this domain and somebody else will do it. If it's a chemical industry project, it will be evaluated by technical experts from that. And we will also have the financial experts in that committee who will evaluate for financials and your projections and the viability of the project. Now, these are some of the companies, like I said, Santa Biotech, Bharat Biotech, Ranbaxy, Cadila, Biocon, Biologically, Aisha Motors, Riva, Tata Motors, and Cocos Labs and Grasim. So these are the companies like Bharat Biot. Okay, so out of 7 COVID vaccine manufacturers today in India, 6 have been funded by TDB, and the seventh one, which is Serum Institute of India, the founder of Serum Institute, Mr. Cyrus Poonawalla, was on a board. Now I'll end with this. What is the connection between these two? Pixulate is a startup, and this Aditya Birla Group is again a big. Both have been funded by us. In one case, we have funded 250 crores, and one case we have funded around 1.5 CR. Now, this 1.5 CR company is helping this 250 crore company to to do better in their quality through AI interventions. With this, I'm finished. I'm open to questions. You can write, or if the time permits, I'm open to answering. Thank you.
Thank you, Navdeep. Now may I request Mr. Pankaj Shah, Chairman, Governing Council, Indian Plastic Institute, to give his views. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sri Rajesh ji, Dr. Vasudevan, Vinisha ji, Dr. Navneet Kaushik, eminent speakers of the today's event, good afternoon to you all. First of all, I would like to, I'm very much impressed with the Dr. Vasudevan's presentation. And being in plastic, as a plastic fraternity, I fully agree with his viewpoint. The Indian Plastic Institute is registered as a public trust in 1985. Indian Plastic Institute is the backbone of the technical education in resource for plastics technical information in India. We promote the correct use of plastics and its recycling and circular economy. We are very much part of the circular economy. Whereas I am aware of the environmental impact of SUP, I wish to enumerate some points that merit urgent attention. Identification of the technical and commercial viability of the alternative UNEP seminar report has given roadmap in which evaluation, trials, consumer acceptance, commercial availability, etc. cannot be ignored. We should prepare a status paper on alternative now and roadmap for their white space availability. Evaluation of safety, efficiency, integrity, and the toxicity of the alternatives at a par with the SUP. Many SUPs are related to food, dairy products, processed fruits, and many other applications, where safety, toxicity, shelf life, logistics, integrity have standards and specifications. This needs to be applied to alternatives in so that there has to be parity on this technical ground to protect the consumer interest and the safety. Minute of littering of our lifestyle has a bred massive consumption of single-use product packed in plastics, paper, foil, metals, and composites. Per capita volume of waste or garbage is on the rise. Though SWM rules have clearly put the onus on the local government to collect, transfer, and manage municipal solid waste, deficiency in the discharge of the by these local bodies is not questioned. These authorities have largely failed to implement simple provisions like segregation of the waste at source, fines on violations like littering, due to which ground conditions are not improving noticeably, polluter waste. The principle is also yet to be implemented in the large parts of the country, showing lack of holistic action on the subject. Unclear performance of bio and ox-biodegradable plastics by allowing biodegradable plastic without simultaneously stoppage of littering will bring many SUPs based on them. After degradation, we will see the plastic part in small particles in soil or water that will worsen the situation. Encouragement to the littering on the ground, blanket approval to biodegradable or oxo-biodegradable plastics will incentives littering, which is the root cause of all environment issues. The association should come together for the awareness and the best practice should be done. Thus, I have suggestions and alternatives to the ban on the SUP. Recycling is a very viable for SUPs which are not contaminated and certain economic value. For example, water bottle, confectionery, packaging, and many things. Plastics Association should come up with the guidelines to organize the sector to standardize the quality of recycled products and safe and healthy environment at the workplace. Use and promote bioplastics to reduce carbon footprint and improve image of plastics. We should be able to stop the age-old practice of downgrading the recycled plastics, which eventually result in fragment pile in use of flying all over.
काय
Compositable plastics are alternative for SUPs, which cannot be recycled and engage ready food packaging and containers, carry bags, garment bags, trash bags, and etc. Compostable plastics need to be handled responsibility by Plastic Association
शुक्रवारी
by putting clear guidelines, else it will
तेव्हा
end up
संध्याकाळी
like any
4:30 नंतर
other
फोन कर
plastic.
हा 4:30
Samir, please switch off your mic. Samir.
हॅलो
All members of the association must have pollution control board consent to operate. Support for the technology adoption for implementation of organic recycling. Enforcement. Stringent anti-littering laws to be enforced on the lines of the global laws. Stringent segregation laws to be enforced for the source of segregation within organic, that is disposed along with the compostable waste bags and recyclable dry waste. Strict penalties for banned SUP manufacturers, sellers, and traders for the violation. Strict penalties for the unauthorized manufacturers, sellers, and traders who non-standard fake products of allowed compostable alternative products. Suspension and termination of CBCB registration if CPCB registered manufacturers, sellers, manufacture or sell substandard products not complying to the ISO 10788 specifications. Balanced approach is needed. The industry is passing through challenging times and the holistic solution should be found out of resolving issues. A more reasonable way to tackle the problems of the environment impact of plastic is the society would improve waste collection and reuse by creating circular economy to accuse these stakeholders can explore options such as including more recycling content in final products to reduce the dependency on the emerging polymers. Business can explore eco-friendly options to reduce the negative environmental impact on the plastic industries. This is the challenge that we are going to face, and I'm quite sure that in this webinar we can come up with all kind of solutions that plastic industry is facing today. Plastics is the way of life, I personally feel. As Dr. Vasudevan said, it's a God gift. Let's enjoy and bring out some solution to this SUP problem. I first think that the holistic 360-degree approach is called. For that, we'll address the above points along with many important dimensions. As Vinitaji said, that 80,000 units plus 80,000 units are going to be affected, and maybe more than 5 lakhs jobs will are at stake. Let us bring and together make awareness and let's try and address this issue with the government of India and continue to use SUP in a better way. Of course, find the new technology for this application. I my way. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shri Pankaj Shahji. Now, may I request Dr. Sachin Jain, Director, Co-founder, SKYI, to present his views. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Special thanks to the organizers and IPI for giving me this opportunity to talk about alternative to SUPs and what next in 2022. I am not going to discuss about, whether ban on SUP is good or not and what can be the other possibilities. I would like to offer some of the possibilities how this single-use plastic ban can be handled, what are the possible solutions, and at no point I would say that these are the only solution. I think these are one of few solutions or few alternatives which the industry should, with open mind, look at and also evaluate whether they are useful and better than what is banned currently. Now, if you look at what is banned, and I am just putting some list which is in general, which has low utility but high littering potentials. Uh, Something like earbuds with plastic sticks, candy sticks, the thermocol for decorations, plastic plates, cups, cutleries, etc., etc. The list is long. I think there were more than 150 items, but the government and also the technical committee was wise enough to downsize it and bring only the potentially harmful and less value, or let's say low utility products in the ambit of plastic ban. What are the alternatives? I also come from plastic industry. I think when you look at plastics, one, obviously, the best alternative is to look at the recycling of these single-use plastic and, in fact, even multi-recycling. Again, in many aspects, I have seen in the recent times that people normally get or like to confuse with downgrading when talking about recycling. And we ourselves at Skya and globally also all around the world, people are now looking at upcycling of the materials which are used once or twice. And we have been using this in high-end engineering plastics to make this useful in engineering application, thereby reducing the carbon footprint significantly. And there are new alternatives. So I think conventionally people were doing mechanical recycling. Now the technology has come up with certain better uh, polymer-based additives which can be used to bring the properties to a better standards. The other, which is talked about a lot, less accepted so far, is compostable based on bio-based materials. I think also in the government of India, MOEF especially has pushed forward the materials, the alternative material to single-use plastic as certified compostable, which suffice with ISO 17088. Obviously, two important parameters there, as Mr. Shah also mentioned, the sustainable supply chain, which is very important, and consistent quality and performance, whether they are better or similar in terms of performance and better in terms of life cycle analysis, carbon footprint, and waste management. Uh, so when we look at recycling, obviously, as I mentioned, that we normally confuse them. And one of the things, what can be recycled, which is not contaminated and can be reused in various aspects. One of the things which Dr. Vasudevan also mentioned in the road construction, for example. And I think we have been doing that fairly well. One of the good example is the plastic water bottles, which I think in a large number is getting recycled. Probably more than 90% of it gets recycled and reused. However, when it becomes contaminated, for example, with food waste, I'm just giving a simple example, slightly difficult to recycle and reuse and may not have the value. And these are the items I believe can have a other sustainable solution. One of them is obviously compostable polymers, and I am very clearly would like to point out that we should not get confused with what is certified and approved by MOEF, CPCB, and what is not. Because oxo-degradable, for example, would leave the fear of contaminating our water bodies with microparticles. And I think that is where Mr. Pankaj was also talking about, that we need to evaluate very carefully when we are moving from plastic to alternative, whether they are better or even worse. And I think this is one example where we need to be careful. Likewise, if you look at paper, for example, it is perceived in general public that this is more environment friendly. I think only from probably waste management perspective, it may be slightly better than plastic. But if you look at the environmental impact, it is far poor. And in fact, if I mean some of the people who are from plastic industry would know this, plastic also made let's say bigger impact because it was seen as more environmental friendly alternative to papers. And now going back to paper would be, I think, going against what was perceived in the past. So I believe compostables are better alternatives. And one of the examples I'm showing here, what is compostable is basically when it starts to completely degrade first into a smaller particles, and these then are eaten by microorganisms and get converted into CO2, water, and biomass. Whereas oxo-degradable breaks into smaller plastic particles and then they remain plastics. Whereas non-biodegradable obviously are, you know, known and talked about, and I would not get more onto that again. But essentially, when we talk about compostable, it has to undergo degradation during composting, yield CO2, water, minerals, salts, and new biomass, and should compose within 3 to 6 months period, and should not increase the toxicity or have the adverse effect on the soil. This is the primary motive of this compostable, certified compostable materials. Now, when you look at what are the alternatives to plastic, jute and cotton bags, they are probably environmental friendly, but scalability and consistency in terms of quality, and another challenge with them is to whether they can carry liquid on their own is also an important factor. Obviously, economic impact of these bags is significantly higher when you compare it with plastics. Then you have paper bags. I mentioned just now that I think from the overall environmental impact, they are not very eco-friendly. Apart from the fact that they are cut, they are the paper is produced from trees. A lot of different types of chemicals are used in processing paper, which is also not very environment friendly. They are scalable and there is enough raw material to make paper bags, but again, they are, if you compare with plastic, more expensive. Obviously, what we are looking at from the plastic industry also is compostable polymers, which can be eco-friendly, scalable, suitable for or similar in properties to plastics and cheaper compared to paper or jute bags. It is still more expensive than plastics or conventional plastic per se, but better than existing other alternatives. Where the compostable polymers have been there since last 2 or 2.5 decades, and over the time it has improved similar to the plastics which are evolved over 60, 70 years. Compostable plastics are also evolving, and now they have come to a stage where they can be used on existing machines. There are more than thousands of converters who can move from plastic to compostable plastics without having to invest into capital or into other machines. And it can also help to reduce the job loss or businesses. There is enough availability of raw material. We always talk about the question on whether there is enough raw material available, and we compare the data with petroleum products. For example, if I talk about polypropylene, India alone produces more than a few million tons of polypropylene. And if you talk about biopolymers, probably India does not produce at this moment. But it is a question of use and the market size, and I think there will be more and more alternative coming in. Being agri-based economy, also India has good potential of raw material which can be used to make this compostable polymer. I would like to point out one good example. For example, India is the largest producer of castor in the world. And one of the big biopolymer, which is compostable also, is produced from castor oil. But castor and castor oil is exported out of India. Someone else convert this castor oil into adipate acid and succinic acid, and then the polymers are produced. So there is a good potential even from the PM Modi's push for Atmanirbhar Bharat, that there is a raw material which is available in India which can be converted to make valuable polymers. Same is the example of sugar and sugarcane juice, which can be used, and there is already a lot of work going on to find alternative use of sugar, uh, alternative use for sugar apart from only sent for eating and use, to find other in other areas like in polymers and chemicals. Now, I will just browse through very quickly where does these biopolymer can find waste, and there are alternatives already available people are using. For example, thermoforming and sheet extrusion. There are already biocompostable polymers available. Similarly, transparent cups and the glasses which are used. The straw, for example, is one of the big challenge, not because it is very high in terms of tonnage, but in terms of volume and numbers, it is huge, and it is extremely difficult for rag pickers or anyone to collect and recycle it. Part one. Part two, if it is contaminated with milk product and juices, extremely difficult to wash and recycle. So it has to move to a alternative material which is probably does not need recyclability. Then these are other items which are related with cutleries and get contaminated with food and mostly has less value in terms of recycling. The paper coating, again, this is another extremely important aspect. Normally, what is perceived as nice, for example, paper cups are always coated with plastic inside so that they can carry liquid in it, hot liquid, cold liquid, and this thin layer of plastics cannot be removed from paper so easily. And that's where either we have to get away from paper cups or we should start working with more environmental friendly coating on it. One option is compostable polymer. The other is nowadays, which is coming, is also direct thin coating of water soluble, more compostable materials. The courier bags can also move to this. Another good example I want to point out is on mulch films. India has less penetration of mulch film yet in the agriculture sector. I think it is close to 3 to 5%. But if you look at plastic mulch films, it has enormous impact in terms of growth and saving water. But if the plastic particles are left out in the farm, it reduces the water retention in the soil. And that is having negative impact on the fertility over the time. So other agrarian economies like Japan, New Zealand, Australia, even Germany, which is big in agriculture sector, they have all moved to compostable mulch bins. The primary reason is that it can be, when it is flowed, it breaks down into small pieces, and within 3 to 6 months time, everything of it gets composted. So it is also adding a compost to the soil and helps improve this fertility. And then there are other examples, including hygiene films and sanitary pads. I just want to go through it quickly in the respect of time. These are simpler areas which are already known and moved into compostable polymers, including waste bags. Nursery bags is another good example where we are anyway planting plants and trees in these bags, and if they are directly compostable, one need not remove these plastic covers. I have seen that in the forest, especially when people go for plantation, these plastic covers are removed and left out there. If we move to these alternatives, probably you don't need to remove them, and over the time they would get disintegrated and compost. And I am emphasizing more and more on compostable material because we are talking about conversion to compost eventually. And then there are more alternatives. So way forward, I think there is a good system already in place on certification and registration of compostable polymer through CPCB. Obviously, Central Pollution Control Board and MOEF is talking about this and pushing this for last 3, 4 years. And suddenly now when the plastic ban has come, people have realized that this process takes time. But there was a reason for it. The composting test itself take 3 to 6 months because there is a effect which people would like or the government would like to test on the toxicity of soil. And I think finding a shorter way there would be detrimental to the whole theme of, good certified materials around it. However, with a lot of push and also demand from industry, a Central Pollution Control Board is now also working on interim approvals, and this is helping the industry to get and adapt to a new technologies. And there is also rapid testing available nowadays for compostable. I firmly believe that change is always different, may not be very difficult, but always different, and it is inevitable. The faster we accept and adapt to it, I think it is better. Obviously, a lot of work has already been done on this, and it is up to us now where we stand with this. Uh, and I believe this is one of the alternatives which I think can give a good alternative to single-use plastics. So we are not killing the plastic industry, but we are giving the alternative, which is also in the ambit of plastics industry, but maybe more evolved polymer, which is more environmental friendly. So in my view, this is one of the good alternatives, probably not the only alternative. There are more alternatives to plastic which are banned. With that, I would like to stop and conclude my thoughts on what can be the other alternatives. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sachinji, for giving a scientific and technological side of this. Now, may I request Shri Sharang Ambadkar, Managing Director, Feel Good Eco Nurture LLP, to give his views. You are muted, sir. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, is it visible? Am I visible now? Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. And this all the views that were put forward were very useful, and we have something that we can go forward to when such policies are coming in. What we are doing at Feel Good is something we are upscaling the such SUPs into different products, which will not only be useful for the human nature, for the humankind, but also will be a benefit for the nature as well, because plastics cannot be replaced, as everyone is aligned towards the same thought. It cannot be replaced by any other material because it has its own eco-friendly ways of producing, manufacturing, and using it. But the only solution that we should look forward and come along with is the disposal, the right disposal of it. So, uh, I would like to show a presentation of what we are doing at Feel Good and how we are upscaling this multi-layered plastics. So we work with such type of waste that you can see, and I hope my screen is visible. Then we are working in Mumbai to basically convert multi-layered plastics and all other waste which is collected from beach cleanups and ocean-bound plastics. We are recycling and creating a compounded material to basically show the world that no material is waste and landfills are home to none. And no waste can be wasted unless you waste it. It is in your hands if the any waste or any waste which is generated is wasted, but not only it will go into landfill and harm the environment, but if you do not waste it and use it carefully, you can make something out of it. And which is our aim also, to achieve circularity by building sustainable products, by recycling all the non-recyclable and by recycling all non-recyclable plastics basically into an economical, and to replace such products in construction industry. We are focusing on construction industry, And the product impacts that we are looking forward are something like recycling the non-recyclables, reduction of carbon footprints, which will in the longer run be beneficial for global warming also. And the third one is um, circular economy, how we can contribute our ways to promote circular economy and take it in a vision that, or the goals that have placed by India in the um, SDG impacts that India is going to take forward. And the last one is what our contribution as a company or as a startup is towards sustainable development goals. So these are some of the products that we are doing. These are tiles which are made from 100% multi-layered plastics. So before going ahead, I would like to show a small video of what how these tiles are made actually. Um, 300 million tons. That is the amount of plastic waste we humans generate in just 1 year. And yet, only 9% of this is ever recycled. We at Feel Good Eco Nurture make waste feel good. And that is why our vision is to achieve a circular economy that is sustainable for all. Introducing our flagship product, Styles, the sustainable tiles. To make style, we take ocean bound multi layered plastic waste, which is granulated and then turned into a style. It is easily installable, fire resistant, and can handle almost any load that you throw at it. Not only this, its recyclable nature means that a style can never go to waste. Numerous clients are already a part of our movement aligned with the Swachh Bharat mission, and we urge you to join in as well. So, as you saw, we are mainly focusing on the construction industry because concrete is the largest polluter of
In Carrara,
CO
Italy, extract
of
talent from
CO2 in the world right now, and it contributes almost to 9% of the total CO2 emissions in the world. So, to reduce the usage of concrete, we have come up with something like tiles, which are replacement for floorings and paver blocks on roads. We have placed it in a lot of companies, brands, and municipalities where people are using these tiles. Then there are some gifting articles like keychains, which are made from multi-layered plastics again. Uh, and then the other product that we are making is using profile extrusion basically. And if you can see this chairs on the sides, this is not wood, but it is all plastics. So this is the second product. We are trying to replace the usage of wood in some ways, in some applications where trees won't have to be have to be cut basically, and save the deforestation so that also we improve the carbon capturing uh, impact of the earth by not deforesting. So this wood can be this plastic wood actually can be used to replace the natural wood, and usage of natural wood can be decreased as. So these are some how it is differentiated from the concrete block. So as you can see, the carbon emissions is very low. It is just 80 to 100 grams in 1 kg, whereas in concrete blocks it is almost 1 kg for 1 kg of concrete produced, 1 kg of CO2 is also produced. So there are some in important aspects of environmental benefits, or how humans can take decisions which are beneficial for the environment and can save this problem of plastic pollutions. And we won't have to see such policies of banning the plastics is not the solution, but uh, using it rationally and disposing it responsibility is the only solutions. So we have partnered with a lot of companies and associations who are helping us to take the solutions ahead. And that's it from my side. So uh, thank you very much.
Thank you, Shri Sharanji, for your views and telling something about your company and giving alternatives to us. Now, may I request Dr. Sunil Pandey, Director, Environment and Waste Management, to express his view. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jan. Let me try sharing my presentation. I hope you can see my presentation. Yeah.
Yeah, it's visible.
So can you see it also on full screen?
Yeah, it's on full screen, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. So this is actually, very interesting presentations, and some of it actually might be repetition here. What I'm trying to capture is work which we did for project supported by German Technical Cooperation on requirement of MOFCC, where we were looking at uh, this SUP phase out, and what is kind of preparedness of India in terms of alternatives. And we are essentially looking at uh, uh, startups, emerging startups, which are coming out with interesting alternatives, and what is kind of their readiness to bring out these alternatives in the market. And some of you might have also contributed to the process. So just to capture why we are talking about, just quickly to capture why we are talking about this issue. Packaging, very good plastic packaging, because it provides many of the properties which are not afforded and provided by other packaging alternatives. But problem is how we manage our packaging, and most of it is recycled, but the one which is not recycled are all low value plastics, and that is where single use plastic ban was targeting. And and the pollution aspect of it, because most of the time when it is littered and not picked up for recycling, it's often get burnt, leads to landfill sites, and also chokes, drainage systems and all that. And finally, globally, it has become a marine litter issue, where it is estimated that around 90% of the garbage in marine garbage is basically plastics, and that is the concern. And that is why there is a global kind of commitment to phase out some of the problematic plastic packaging material, or plastic single-use plastic material, some of which is not essentially packaging. For example, we were talking of balloon sticks and ice cream sticks and all that, which are not essentially packaging. Sure, white. Yeah. So some of these issues are also, when we were looking at coastal connect and marine water connect to this packaging, some of these issues came to the fore. Why? We need to urgently deal with these issues, because these are some photographs from the coastal waters in Tamil Nadu and Kerala, where we can clearly see that plastics which are not managed by communities or cities and towns there would ultimately end up in the coastal waters and become part of the marine debris. So with this background, we started this project on approach to alternative packaging. As I said earlier, support from GIZ and MFCC. We were looking at all the three steps in the verticals in the value chain. Upstream, if there's a possibility of reducing some of these, phasing out some of these. Midstream, where some of these eco-friendly stores, e-commerce value chain, online platforms, and how they have been evolving some concepts like zero waste stores. And downstream, where recycling of these at the end of life, and looking at how value addition in the recycling can be done. I'll not focus so much on downstream, because downstream has already been discussed by our other earlier speakers in very interesting presentations. And the alternatives which essentially we were looking at are basically covering, starting from plant-based resources, fossil fuel based but biodegradable plastics, paper, corrugated cardboards in terms for packing applications, microbial plastics, plastics which are derived from microbial solution reactions, and metal, glass, and ceramic alternatives. In alternative, the issues which we are looking at in the project was policy legislation, strict if there would be strict implementation of ban, or ban would continue to be as it was earlier in several states across the country. Consumer awareness and education, how much is consumer aware? Single use, whether these packagings will be single use or multiple use, and their recyclability, because many of these alternatives which are being proposed are also single use. They are not. They might be biodegradable, but they are essentially also single use. Zero waste and circular economy pathway possibilities, end of life assessment and standards, addressing challenges such as barrier properties which are provided by plastic packaging, strength and high, and also some of these alternatives, as also mentioned by Dr. Jan earlier, are high cost. Manufacturing process optimization, socioeconomic impacts of these over the long run, because if they are not recyclable, then there's also livelihood issue of the waste pickers which are dependent currently on plastic packaging. Raw material procurement and storage, and strategies to cater to increased demand. So some of these results which came out, I'll quickly present in my 8 to 10 minutes. Zero waste stores, looking at zero waste stores, what many of the people who are practicing zero waste stores told us that traditionally we all wear zero waste because there was no plastic packaging. And before that, everyone was required to bring their own containers or bags to stores to get grocery items. In recent times, shoppers got option of have an option of purchasing reusable containers in the so-called zero waste stores. Paper bags also available in many of these retailers, and this helps in minimizing wasteful packaging. But there's a definition of zero waste stores as defined by Alliance for Zero Waste in USA, that it must ensure in the entire supply chain that the zero waste concept is sustainable and minimizes waste generation across its value chain. So that's important. When you say your zero waste store or zero waste retailer, you need to demonstrate that in the entire value chain. And based on this definition, when we looked at started looking at different entities in the country, we could identify 23 established zero waste stores for which sufficient information was there on their website. And these are indicated, spread over pan India and indicated in this map. And then we studied them in detail. I'm not giving you results because the report actually is still pending to be released by MOEF. They're still planning to release it at some event. From there, I'll quickly move to some of these initiatives by most of the e-retailers which are known to all of us. And what are these initiatives? Some of these initiatives from Amazon India or Flipkart, much earlier anticipating that this ban will be enforced this year, they've all shifted to paper-based packaging, for example, and also commitment to phase out plastic waste and improve recyclability of their products. Commitments to 2025 or entities like Hindustan Unilever, IRCTC, which was surprisingly using some of the packaging which was less than 20 micron. They've completely phased out that. They've started shifting. Most of them have shifted to biodegradable alternatives in terms of trays, bowls, cutleries, and also reusable containers where you can bring in your container and get supplies. For example, Hindustan Unilever has come out with some of the reusable container option. Similarly, ITC has come out with initiative. ITC has done extensive research on what kind of single-use alternative to single-use plastic they can use in their business, and they have come out with some of the new biopolymer paper packagings, which we'll discuss earlier. And ITC also has aggressively started marketing some of their paper-based packaging, like it's called Philo series, and they're partnering currently with Invest India for sourcing cloud-based solutions. Tata Chemicals are developing recyclable laminates for packaging of consumer products. Big Basket, again, I mean, they're not delivering anything in plastic packaging except for very essential items like milk pouches. They are putting groceries and everything into open crates and paper packed, and that's how they're cutting down on their plastic packaging requirements. We also, in the process, discussed with large brand owners and some of the FMCG product owners when we were discussing this. And we were essentially asking them what is kind of feasibility which they see for development of alternative packaging to level where it becomes financially viable and financially can compete with the cost of the products which they are replacing. They said that overall, I mean, these are a few points which capture their thought process. And they said that overall they agree with the need that because of these pollution problems, they need to be alternative product packaging market. But all the alternative packaging producers and suppliers need to be in line with overall aim of these companies and brands and need to work out their product designs as per their requirements. Very importantly, something which was raised in earlier session also, LC of these alternatives needs to be carried out in a detailed manner so that their real impact is known. They should not be in terms of ecological or environment impact. They should not be more adverse impacting than their plastic alternatives. Similarly, circularity and waste minimization also was one of the issue highlighted. They say that many of these alternatives, for example, very typical example they gave was of wooden cutlery that might still be single use and might have to be disposed after single use and we may not be able to recycle them. So these are the issues which need to be addressed when we are looking at alternatives. And regarding startups, since our focus was looking at startups which are currently getting into or engaged into production of alternative material, they would prefer these startups, tie up with these startups when they are in mature stage. And they also support, interestingly, they support adoption and scaling of zero waste concept, where I mean many of these grocery shops are looking at doing away with packaging requirement and wanting customers to bring their own containers or provide them reusable containers against a nominal cost, which customer can bring in when he comes for shopping next time. Other than that, in the literature review, we came up with very interesting article from UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs, which was put up in 2019. And it looked at what are the technologies which are currently being researched and currently being seen as a viable alternative if they can be developed into at some stage into viable financially viable options. One is they looked at natural substitute for packaging, but overall consensus was that they may not be. If it has to be done globally, there may not be enough alternative availability for these alternatives. For example, simple case which was discussed was about banana leaves or similar materials for packing food for short duration usage. Use of nanotechnology was interesting for coating cardboard and paper containers for water repellents. Here, plastic was discussed as an alternative, but again, it was mentioned that it's only reducing the volume of plastic which is required to be coated. So waste reduction is possible, but to do away with plastics overall will not be possible unless you are looking at something a plastic coating which is biodegradable, where ITC also currently is focusing. Use of nanotechnology for lightweighting steel and aluminum containers so that the cost can be reduced and they can provide similar kind of application as plastic packaging. Genetic engineering of hemp, jute, and flax was another issue which is currently being researched for imparting strength and also enzymatic processes for producing bioplastic from these raw material, so that their packaging properties can be improved to the tune to similar properties as plastic packaging offer. Production of bioplastics, we have discussed that in Dr. Jan's presentation as well. Recycling of commingled plastic, which we are currently looking at TERI, because many times sorting plastics further into different polymers is not possible and very cumbersome. So we are currently looking at what is the possibility of recycling commingled plastics and using additives which are non-BFR brominated flame retardant based flame retardants, which can improve the which can do away in the products which are manufactured will be not with BFR, so their recycling when they become waste would be easier. So this is my last slide. I'll thank you for your kind attention and will be happy to close my presentation here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. And before we go to the last session, I have a request from the organizers for everyone who are in the program to please switch on their cameras. We would like a group photo. Single photo, single use plastics, single photo, single frame. Pankaj ji, Rohit, Shalini ji, Sharang, Vasudevan sir, Captain Vaidya. Sandeep, you also joined. He has been the person behind all this. Sandeep, we need to get Vasudevan ji. Let me see. Let me just call him. Sir, can you please? Hello, sir. Can you please?
Rajesh ji, as we are posing for the photo, maybe you can close the inaugural session and call for the discussion forum. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks a lot, everybody. We will close this inaugural session, and now we move forward for the discussion. Thank you very much, and the floor is open now. Thank you, please. Ma'am, over to you, ma'am.
I now request Samir Joshi ji to. I think you're muted. You're muted. Samir ji, you're on mute.
Can we have the photos? Almost everybody is here.
Right.
say cheese, it is better on the screen. Thank you. Thank you. So
Thank you.
now move on to the panel discussion, single-use plastics and whatnot.
You are
Again
muted.
on mute, Samirji.
You're mute. You're on mute.
Samir, we are not able to hear you.
Yeah. Now better.
Yeah.
Yeah, our last panel discussion, Collins Dictionary, a single word, single use. Collins Dictionary people, those people who monitor the words on this earth, a corpus of 4.5 billion words, came up with an annual list of words, and the most notable among them was single use. The word of the year of 2018, single use, and a word which refers to a single use, done with it and thrown away. And that is what caught the eye of the single use plastics use. And we are here to today discussing that. Without wasting much time, I would like this session to be a sort of a, the participants, the three panelists, Nitin could not join, to give in 3 minutes their views on the same. May I request Captain Satyendra Vaidya, a waste management specialist and former captain in the Indian Navy, a helicopter pilot by profession, to share his views. Over to you, Satyendra.
Thank you, Samir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Samir, for inviting me to this program. See, the problem that I see is with the single use of a product. The material is not so important in my view, because if we have any product that is going to be used only once, we are going to keep tapping on into the virgin material and keep destroying the environment. So whether it is plastic, whether it is glass, whether it is paper, whether it is metal, anything that is single use has to be stopped. We need to start reusing material. Another issue which a lot of people discussed today was using paper versus plastic. We have to also remember that when we use paper, not only are we cutting a few trees and using a lot of energy in making that paper, but the trees which were there were sequestering a lot of carbon. We have removed those two. So when we are doing LCA studies of paper versus plastic, I think what we need to take into consideration is the loss of carbon sequestering due to cutting of those trees. Again, like everyone has said, the problem is not with plastic. The problem is with human beings. We need behavioral changes, and we need them to come quick and fast if we have to continue surviving on this planet. That's what I would like to say about single use and single use plastic products in particular.
Thank you for your crisp and words of experience. May I now request Shalini ji, the Managing Director of the International Council on Circular Economy, to share her thoughts.
Thank you, Dr. Samir, for inviting me here. I hope I'm audible to everyone.
Yes, you are.
Yes, madam.
Thank you. It's an honor to speak here about the single-use plastic, which has been banned from 1st of July in India. And I see that the industry is facing a lot of challenges with it. There are two types of challenges that we are facing. One is the alternates. Do we have alternate to every single item that has been banned? And the second is, are the alternates sustainable? Are they really kind of workable solution to it? Are we taking the right decision in banning it, or are we just kind of banning it, but not looking at the entire life cycle assessment of the products that are the alternates? So having said that, I think plastic industry, when we talk about the alternates, should come up with solutions which are more sustainable. At the same time, the most important thing is also to change the behavior from single use, like Captain Satyendra said. The most important thing is that we need to change the way we treat our waste. We need to change the way we are using the products, be it plastics or be it textiles, or it's applicable to irrespective of plastic industry, but it's applicable to every single when we talk about circularity. So I would like to bring in the concept of circularity, which focuses more on reduction and reusing so that the waste that is produced is reduced. I think the focus should be more on reducing the use of certain things and also reusing as much as possible. So perhaps when we talk about single-use plastic, the definition of single-use plastic was missing earlier when the last ban was announced, which has been rectified in this notification. But at the same time, what we need to see is also that industry should grow and should have sustainable alternates to it. With it, I think consumer behavior needs to be changed. Waste reduction has to be taken care of. Uh, we all need to look at India has the polluters pay principle today, but why not consumer pay also? So why is consumer not brought into the permit of any kind of penalties for the waste that we are producing? I also talked about the landfill tax that can be levied on the consumers for the waste that they are producing is a very good way of reducing the waste that is being produced. So this is another alternate or a physical alternate to reduce the kind of waste that is being generated today. India, fortunately, is at a point where the per capita waste production is quite minimal as compared to the Western countries. Having said that, we need to continue this, and this can only happen once we do not kind of start using or adopting to the single use or let's say use and throw policy that happens everywhere in the West as we see. So the sustainable practices that were there in our culture should be promoted, and the reduction and the sustainability practices should also be promoted both by the government as well as the consumer. I think NGOs and civil society organizations play an extremely important role in making this feasible. And I would invite the industry as well as the nonprofits uh, to come up with solutions that bring in a sustainable alternate to the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, madam, for this words of wisdom. It is said that great things happen when men and mountain meet. Here is one such fine young gentleman, Rohit, working in the Himalayas for plastic waste management. Over to you, Rohit.
Hi, sir. Thank you so much for having me here. Hi, everybody. As sir mentioned, I've been working in the mountains for quite some time now, so I'll bring in that perspective to the picture. So, mountain communities and most of the Himalayan communities by nature has been very self-sustainable in terms of managing their waste. First of all, these communities were not, accustomed to the plastic or the new waste that is being generated. So, all of our organic waste was treated in the right manner. We were into composting, we were managing, we were feeding our cattle. But as the plastic comes in, it comes with convenience, and I think that's something that all of us has to unlearn first, because the convenience part takes the biggest toll, and that's the biggest challenge that comes with use of single use plastic. So that's something that has to be changed first of all. And going forward, I also believe that adding to Shalini ma'am's point, that of course there is a huge need of awareness, IECs, behavioral change communication programs all around the communities across India, across Indian subcontinents, wherein we are using most of the single use. As I was recently told that in Thailand, they just give straws with everything. So anything you buy, even you buy a water bottle, they give you a straw with it. So that unlearning has to be there. That process has to be followed, wherein you're teaching why design has to be changed while creating any sort of packaging material. And then single use, now with the ban, I believe that is the best step that we have taken, and Himalayan communities are taking it serious for the longest time. So I'll take up one example of this Lachun village in Sikkim, where single use has been banned since 2018 already. I mean, this particular community, this particular village does not allow any amount of single use plastic coming in or entering to their particular community. So they check every vehicle, they check every shop. It's a community driven mechanism, and that similar mechanism is having a trickle down effect on many other communities. So even in Ladakh, we have been banning single-use plastic for the longest time. We are using paper. We are using upcycled newspaper for any material that we have to give away. So that's something that we have been taking up, and I would again proudly say that Himalayan communities have been leading the way for most of the India to follow in terms of how to be more sustainable in nature. And at the same time, there are changes that are required in the community, within the Himalayan communities. We have to provide alternates to them, and these alternates have to be again very well thought of, because another problem that I'm seeing in the community is the greenwashing that is happening around, right? So people are of course promoting cotton substitute, and again, cotton is one of the most polluting and most water guzzling industry. So that's something that we have to dwell into. What are we promoting, how we are promoting it, and what sort of education is being delivered specifically to communities who are not aware, who are not well read, who are not been aware of the harmful effects of burning of plastic waste or single use plastic. So I mean, starting on that note, over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. The panelists have been crisp, like those single use. Their points have been crisp and clear. So I would not take much time, but we are running almost out of time. But I would invite Pankaj Shahji, the chairman of Indian Plastics Institute, to give some of his comments, which he would like to place before the audience as a plastic manufacturer and as also someone who is responsible and cares for the environment.
Yeah, Sami, thanks. I respect for the suggestions which have been given by the panelists, but at the same time, being the plastic fraternity member, definitely we would like to not encourage the single-use plastic ban. See, there are ways of creating the collection centers, which government should support in way of infrastructure, and we can segregate the waste in a proper way and reuse and recycle the same thing. And whatever is not being recycled in whatever way, as Dr. Vasudevan has presented in his paper, that we can always use in the road, construction of the road. Now that is not happening because, let me be very honest and frank about it, that the vested interest contractors are not allowing the plastics to be mixed with the tires, and then that is why the creation has been done. So I personally feel, I for certain know that Nitin Gadkari, the Minister of the Construction, have already given the notification of using the plastics in the road construction, which is not happening. So I personally feel that banning the plastics, creating the jobs are at stake for the workers. Where you are going to feed them? How you are going to feed their families? How you are going to take care of their working? So question is very simple. Banning is always there. Welcome, no use. I mean, but at the same time, we have never created the public awareness. If I argue plastics waste is only contributing 9% of the total waste being produced. You take the example of e-waste, you take the example of the construction waste. What is happening to that? Have we taken any steps to that? Nobody's talking about the e-waste, nobody's talking about the construction waste. And there are many other waste which have been generated. So why only target plastics? Yes, I agree with that, that because of its nature, people are throwing here and there. And that is why the discipline should be bring with the consumers, not with the banning of the plastics. The awareness should be created. We should create the separate bins of collecting it. There are many countries. I have seen the Europe, the dry waste, wet waste, and the plastics and all this. There are not even 3 bins. There are 5 to 6 bins. They are being laid down in every street. So collection is the way where we can give the solution of the use of plastics rather than banning it. As Mr. Rohit, with due respect to you, paper and all are alternatives, but at the same time, paper directly or indirectly, you have to cut the trees, whether you recycle that from the newspaper or otherwise. So you, in any case, you are basically creating the problem for the environment by cutting the trees. Cutting the trees is again going to have effect on the environment, because if you cut the trees like this to make the paper base components, then you are going to get affected of the rainy seasons or any kind of sports seasons which you are having in the year. So the solution is not banning the plastic. The solution is to create the awareness among the consumers, and we should have a right representation to the government. We are not totally against not banning of the single-use plastics, but there are certain plastics like carry bags and other things can continue. So you know that the manufacturers will remain happy. The jobs are not lost for the down below workers who are making their ends meet. By working into the factories or in any trading unit. So I personally feel that let's come together, all the association, all the environmental experts. We should and work with the scientists, and we should come to some conclusion that okay, certain plastics we can ban, certain plastic we should carry on, because unless and until we, and first thing, let me say that India is working on the micro small manufacture as a base country. We don't have a large industries. We are SSI. We are more SSI units than any other country in the world. So our culture is the SSI. If the SSI gets affected, then everything gets affected. How you are going to face this kind of economic situation? So this is my view. Amit, take it further.
Thank you. We are running out of time. I have been asked to also propose a vote of thanks. Vote of thanks in a single-use plastics program. Thank you can be said in many ways, like merci in French, arigato michika in Japanese, dhanyawada mulu in Telugu, and dhanyawad in Hindi and Sanskrit. So it's thank you, and over to Binisha madam for the last word.
Thank you so much. I think we were able to, on such time, and with so many panelists and with a lot of views, diverse views. But what I would request is this is just the beginning, because we are going to take forward some of the discussions from this forum to not virtual mode always, but discussion forum, and which we can come out with some more implementation aspects. So I think one of the certain things which have come out from this workshop is that there are alternatives to single-use plastics which can be implemented and which is already in force, and there are uses of it. So we need to really propagate it. So that is one aspect. There are technologies which can also be used to manufacture new products. So that is also found out. There are certain ways of reducing the plastics, and there are projects which have also been shown which can be replicated in other areas, because there are some private pilot projects which have been showcased during this workshop. We do have some concerns, especially from the industry side, which we need to really think about. And but there is one last word, that the government has definitely taken a decision to ban the single-use plastic, and I think that stands, because a lot of time was given from the this was from 2018 onwards. So that stands. So we need to only look at how can we phase out. So let's hope that we will definitely phase out and come out with alternatives, and also in our the way we behave, because that is more important. I think that's what the keynote address from Dr. Vasudevan also clearly mentioned, plastics is not bad, but the way we are abusing it is something which we need to stop. And
Agreed.
with that last note, thank you very much. Thank you very much to all the people who have joined us as participants. And I request all of you to send us a mail in case if you have some new ideas, so that we can take it forward from here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Jay.
Jay.
Congress.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Jay, sir. Vasudevan sir, Hari Om.
Hari Om.